Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to the first in Kenshu series of Publisher Spotlight webinars. Today we're going to cover off from discovery to do, creating a full funnel strategy on Pinterest. So, my name's Dan Shering. I'm the Director of Sales here at Kenshu UK. I'm delighted to be joined by Matt Whitehead of Pinterest, who will be sharing the latest thinking around how Pinterest is being used as part of a full funnel strategy by advertisers today. Just before we go any further, just a bit of housekeeping for you. All attendees are in listen-only mode, so if you have any questions, please submit them via the panel on the right-hand side of your screen. There are also some materials related to the topic available to download. Again, they're on the panel on the left-hand side there. And finally, if you're having any issues, then please just ping us on the chat function or email Michelle at michelle.owen@kenshu.com, and we'll try and resolve the issue. So, without further ado, I'm delighted to hand over to Matt.
Thank you, Dan. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, wherever you may be. Today, we're going to talk about Pinterest being full of possibilities to design your life. For big life moments or everyday moments, people come to Pinterest to find dinner recipes, style inspiration, home projects, and other ideas to try. There are 100 billion ideas on Pinterest. Each pin represents an idea organized by 200 million users globally and personalized to each person so that they can figure out which ideas are best for designing their lives. That means we make it easy for people to find the right ideas for them and take action. Any of these 100 billion possibilities on Pinterest can spark creativity, help you try new things, build confidence, and ultimately to be yourself. The mission of Pinterest is to help people discover and do what they love. Everything Pinterest builds is focused on this mission. From the core experience you see as a user, through to advertising, it's the cornerstone of everything we do. I'm Matt Whitehead, and I look after relationships with Pinterest's marketing partners across EMEA and ANZ. Well, how do I use Pinterest? Well, I've a burning desire to one day build my own home. And right now, I'm looking for fun games to play with my 3-month-old daughter. But everyone uses Pinterest differently. And the common thread throughout that is that Pinterest is about planning. When people come to Pinterest to discover and do the things they love, what they're really doing is planning. And if you think about it, when you go to Facebook or Instagram, you're there to connect with friends or to share a moment. You go to Twitter to see what's going on right here and now. But you go to Pinterest to discover and plan for you. It's about creating the best version of yourself and not the best selfie. And when people are making those plans, they're doing it in 3 ways. They're using Pinterest to make daily decisions, perhaps what to wear today, what to cook tonight. They're using it for making plans around life moments, perhaps weddings, having children, renovating a home, or making big travel plans. And also around seasonal moments, perhaps Christmas, Easter, Mother's Day, or Thanksgiving, and particularly around gifting around these seasonal moments. Now, these planning behaviors that we see on Pinterest lead to a unique mindset. People are more open to new ideas, brands, and products, including yours. An independent research from Kleiner Perkins shows that as people plan on Pinterest, they plan to buy. Over half of Pinterest users say they use Pinterest as part of their shopping process, more than any of these other platforms combined. And that behavior isn't limited to online shopping. Over 2/3 of users say they look at Pinterest for reference or inspiration while in store. In fact, you can often find me wandering around a supermarket with Pinterest open, trying to find all the ingredients for a recipe that I'm trying out. Now, as a marketer, if you want to capture this intent, then you'll need to plan and activate your campaigns earlier than for other channels. You need to be in front of consumers as they begin that planning process. You have to be there at the inception point of an idea so that you can influence that consumer journey. That means activating Pinterest campaigns between 2 and 3 months in advance of someone making a product decision. Compare that with search, where it's a matter of weeks, and compare it with social, where posts are of the moment and often in real time. When consumers are making decisions about what products or services they want to buy, there are several attributes that platforms can provide around a mix of inspiration and information to help people make decisions. Pinterest provides more of these attributes than other platforms, and these are in fact complementary to the other channels that you're working across today. At Pinterest, we aren't naive enough to think that the entire consumer journey happens on Pinterest, although we have seen it happen. But you can see here how all the early stage factors that influence the decision are made on Pinterest, and that consumers will then convert on commerce sites or via search engines. Many of you on the webinar will be search marketers, and in fact I used to be one myself, and something that clearly demonstrates how people use Pinterest is in how they search. Pinterest serves over 2.5 billion search queries a month, so in its own right is quite a significant search engine. And nearly all of those 2.5 billion search queries are unbranded. That represents a huge opportunity for brands to do a couple of different things. Firstly, with search on Pinterest, you're able to own a vertical. So if you think about what's popular on Pinterest, let's say around beauty, there's an opportunity potentially for big holding companies like L'Oreal to own all the makeup keywords on Pinterest and to own that vertical. Similarly, if you're a supermarket and you want to own all recipe ideas, then you can buy all of those recipe keywords on Pinterest. You'll also see incredible value in those high volume generic keywords that are so expensive on traditional search engines. So when you think about those keywords which are costing you the most on a daily basis on traditional search engines, then with the nature of Pinterest being a much newer auction and auction demand being probably lower and less saturated than traditional search engines, your CPCs are going to prove far more valuable on Pinterest than they would on traditional search engines. And finally, you're going to actually avoid brand bidding. I know from when I was a search marketer, it's a real pain point for advertisers when they see brands bidding on their own brand name, which they spent years and thousands, potentially millions of dollars building up that brand equity over time. And then it's so easy for other companies then to just bid on their brand. With no brand bidding happening on Pinterest, that doesn't really exist. So when users are planning on Pinterest, they're doing it across two primary surfaces. The first is the home feed, where users are seeing a dynamically updating and endless scroll of pins, all determined by content that they previously engaged with and searched for. And this is where marketers should aim to stand out and build awareness for their product. The other surface is search, and this is where users typically exhibit more intent and are further through their journey to purchase. Brands can leverage Pinterest search targeting capabilities to match their content to users' queries using many of the same familiar levers as you do today with AdWords or other search engines. Marketers can use multiple formats on either of those two surfaces. For example, you can inspire people in their home feed with eye-catching lifestyle pins, or you can build brand awareness in search with autoplay video. No other platform offers that capability today. And if we look at the example on screen today, you'll see this autoplay video from Adidas helping people make decisions on how to work out. So now that we know how people use Pinterest and the opportunity for brands, how do we go about finding and inspiring these users to take action with our brand versus another? And this should be a familiar sight to everyone, the good old marketing funnel. Invented way back near the turn of the century and still highly influential in how product and marketing life cycles are planned. There are even Twitter accounts that you'll see sarcastically mocking its omnipotence in marketing today. But that good old trusted funnel assumes everyone has the same taste and preferences towards our marketing and our product or service. Everyone is an individual and our tastes vary hugely. One person's dream holiday is another person's purgatory. And that's why at Pinterest, we have built what we call the taste graph. Now, just as Facebook has a social graph and Google has a knowledge graph, the Pinterest taste graph is about how we understand the unique tastes and preferences of every individual user. And you can use the taste graph to find the most valuable consumers for your brand. And when you target these people with your message, you'll be reaching them across the three surfaces of the Pinterest experience. The first, which we already looked at, was the home feed. When the user is in browse mode, this is the dynamically updated endless scroll of content relating to the interest that they previously engaged with. Secondly, in search, where the user is in active consideration, you can capitalize on that additional intent expressed in search and target users with a number of different tools that you'll know and love from search engine marketing. And finally, the third placement where users will see ads and where you can place ads is on related pins. Related pins appear when a user is looking for similar content to a source pin. So for example, if I close up on a pin in Pinterest, I can then scroll and see similar pins below that. You can actually piggyback on trending and popular themes to drive traction in related pins. So ultimately, there's a surface that matches the mindset of the consumer. Pinterest is shifting to an objective-based advertising platform. We want you to help achieve business goals, whether they be to build a brand or to drive consumers to action. Now, that latter objective of driving consumers to action is tied to the CPC auction. Here, you just pay for the click that drives to your website, and we serve CPC ads to those users who are more likely to click versus users who are more likely to browse. If you wanted to build brand awareness, you should be using the CPM auction. You're charged per 1,000 impressions, and we serve CPM ads to those users who tend to browse versus those who click or take action on Pinterest. Now, having covered off where your promoted pins will be seen and how you can buy them, we also need to know what the ads will look like. So there are three main formats that we'll highlight today. The first is standard pins. These are static images used for either building brand awareness or for driving action. Secondly, we have shopping pins. This is for driving commerce actions for retailers. And this format leverages the same merchant center feed that powers Google Shopping, so we've made it as easy as possible to make it a straightforward port over to Pinterest. And finally, autoplay video. This is where you can use motion to capture eyeballs, mind share, and share of voice in your market. If you're launching a brand or product, then this should be the format you're using. We recommend using short, simple videos around 15 seconds that show the value and demonstrate the value of the product rather than telling the user about the value of the product. So how do you find these valuable consumers on Pinterest? Well, it's a mix of proprietary Pinterest targeting and some well-known mechanisms that should be familiar to you all. The first is Pinterest data. So powered by the taste graph, which we talked about earlier, you can target users via interest, keywords, gender, device, and location. We offer over 10,000 interests as available to target across 4 layers of hierarchy. So for example, level 1 might be food, level 2 might drill down into vegetarian food, it might then go down into salads, and then further down into easy salads. And with search, we use the same campaign structure, match types, and bidding tools as with paid search. We also strongly encourage leveraging your own data for targeting. Using first-party customer lists, driven by either email addresses or mobile ad IDs, which might be hashed, and also using the Pinterest tag to retarget people who took a specific action on your site, such as a visit, adding to cart, a checkout. You're able to find your existing customers and find new customers on Pinterest with your own data. So you can expand on any seed audience created with the methods above, using what we call actor likes. This is a reach expansion tool similar to other platforms, helping you to find new customers based on a seed that you've created. The difference with actor likes is that we don't really care too much about the demographic similarity of your audience, but we want to find people who exhibit the same behavior on Pinterest as your seed audience. And because people's interests and tastes change over time, that audience is dynamic. So with Facebook lookalike audiences, you're generally finding a new audience based on a similar demographic and then exhausting that audience and moving on to the next one. However, with the fact that Pinterest audiences are dynamic because people's preferences change over time, we believe that behavioral signals are in fact a far more accurate signal of similarity than demographics. And when you're targeting just purely by demographics, we believe you're making a lot of potentially incorrect assumptions about who your audience is as an individual. So knowing now what Pinterest promoted pins look like, where they will be seen and how to target them, we need to make sure we combine all of that to align to your business objectives. So we have here a typical journey that a pinner takes, using the example of finding a new shirt to buy. From discover to do, it starts with I'm just looking, I'm on my home feed, and I'm not really looking for anything in particular, but something catches my eye. We can align that to pure prospecting, where we would place promoted pins to catch the eye and inspire the pinner. When a pinner engages with a pin, they're thinking, maybe I could buy that shirt either for me or for a friend or a member of my family. And then they begin narrowing their decision-making process down. So we can think of that as qualified prospecting. And then finally, when the user knows what they want, they're perhaps driven by a brand loyalty or a price point. We call that lower funnel, or driving an action through to purchase or sign up, whatever the conversion action might be. So our objectives within pure prospecting are to find a new audience, new customers, and building brand awareness with our audience and those new customers. And there are four different things that we need to align to be able to create the correct strategy for pure prospecting. So the first across the product we want to use is auction CPM. We want to build brand awareness using autoplay video and static pins, making our pins as creative and eye-catching as possible, using interest in keywords, and perhaps even act-alikes of existing customers to find similar new customers. And when it comes to creative, you need to inspire. Use beautiful imagery that is eye-catching and shows off your brand and product in the best possible light, showing it as part of the pinner's lifestyle. Once you're underway building your brand or launching a new product on Pinterest, you should start moving that engaged audience towards purchase, a stage we call active consideration. To move users from awareness to active consideration, we recommend driving traffic to your website using CPC promoted pins. In terms of the format you're using, again, you can use autoplay video or static pins, but you might be now using a mix of interest keywords and retargeting tools to retarget those people that you found when you built the brand awareness. And when it comes to the building creative, we can start introducing more a combination of lifestyle and product images into the pin. And now to crunch time. How do we get people to take action? Well, our goal here is conversions or revenue at a level of efficiency. And Pinterest is a fantastic place to find new customers, but your existing customers will also be available to target. Direct response objectives should always use the CPC auction in conjunction with static or shopping pins. You can also use one-tap pins, which skip the close-up of the pin and take the user straight through to your website. Search becomes a very powerful tool at capturing intent at this stage, so make sure your match types and negatives are in place, derived from the learnings from the previous stages of the funnel. Retargeting engaged users is a no-brainer here, either via the pixel or from first-party data. And finally, when it comes to creative, lead with strong product-led imagery, and if you want to include pricing and time-sensitive promotional offers, we recommend using removable pins. These removable pins are pins that can't be saved by the user and will be deleted from the platform once the campaign is finished, so that you can protect your brand image after the campaign is finished. So hopefully now you've got a good idea about the tools at your disposal for running Pinterest campaigns. In order to prove the impact we're having, we want to make sure you're able to measure to the right KPIs. And there are three main types of measurement that we'll discuss today: tracking and validation, online and offline conversions, and resonance. Marketers today are rightly concerned with whether their ad was actually seen by a human. Our partnership with Moat allows brands to measure viewability across verticals to understand how much of the screen the ad took up, the length of the ad watched if it was a video pin, how much of the sound of an ad was on during the ad displaying, and how long was the ad on screen and in view for. There are minimum spends associated with this measurement, so you can contact Pinterest to find out more. Secondly, third-party tracking is an alpha that started about 6 months ago on Pinterest, and we started testing with selected ad servers at first, but we now work with all third-party providers to help you verify impressions and clicks via your third-party tracking partner. So click tracking can be implemented via self-serve tools or your Pinterest marketing partner. With impression tracking, we need to whitelist the advertisers to be able to do that. So again, contact your Pinterest partner manager or account manager for more information here. Now, the most widely used measurement solution on Pinterest is the Pinterest tag. The tag is a simple snippet of code that sits on your website to measure the actions you deem most important. When you start running Pinterest campaigns, you're unlikely to see Pinterest perform in a last click environment. And that's why we recommend starting with a 30-day click and 1-day view attribution setting. You can see here that in these settings, Wayfair had a 13-to-1 return on ad spend when measuring in this way. And the great thing is with the Pinterest tag is that the same tag that's used for conversion reporting is also used for capturing your audiences for retargeting. Partners with a focus on e-commerce and already using the Pinterest tag should use order ID reporting in their attribution analysis. And we use order ID reporting to prove that attributing conversions to only last click touch points misses the bigger picture of what happens leading up to that conversion. For example, impressions drive conversions and that you should be valuing those earlier touch points. Pinterest is an earlier touch and should be receiving partial credit for upper funnel exposures in a multi-touch attribution model. Well, how does it work? Well, Pinterest sends over all of the order IDs that we see captured by the Pinterest tag and some other fields of data to the advertiser, who then runs the analysis to understand where Pinterest has impacted across sales on their website. We've seen enormous uplifts in attributed conversions to Pinterest as a result of this analysis, so it can be a really strong driver improving the impact of Pinterest. If you're in the business of user acquisition for an app, then Pinterest can help you measure installs and in-app conversions using the major mobile measurement partners. The partners you can see here have built turnkey integrations, allowing for quick setup to ensure that you see value from day one. And finally, brand lift studies. Brand lift studies help marketers measure how media impacts important brand metrics, such as brand awareness, ad recall, and purchase intent. These studies use surveys in an experimental environment to test creative content and messaging. We partnered with Kantar Millward Brown on brand lift studies to help measure the impact on things such as new product launches, new ad formats, or even testing one ad format against another on Pinterest. We've seen enormous uplift in brand awareness for beauty products on Pinterest. So the takeaways from the webinar today should be that number one, brands need to help pinners to plan. But brands bring utility and credibility to users' lives, so you're in a fantastic position to take advantage of the open mindset of users and help them do the things they discover on Pinterest. You should also be matching campaign setups to objectives. The way we serve ads ties strongly to the objectives, so use the content discussed here today to figure out the tools you should use per your objective. And finally, measure the things that matter. If you're trying to drive brand awareness, measure it. If you're trying to drive conversions, measure it. Pinterest has the solutions to help you prove the impact of your Pinterest budget. With that, I'd like to say thank you so much for taking the time to listen today. I hope you found it useful. I'll now hand back to the team at Kenshu.
Thanks, Matt. That was incredibly insightful. I know that a number of our clients are really excited about some of the options coming up on Pinterest. We've got time for just a couple of questions. One of the first ones that's come through is, who's doing Pinterest really well? Any details you can give us around that? Anyone you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, so one example we've seen of really excellent Pinterest advertising is via Ziploc. So Ziploc, for those of you not familiar, make freezer bags, which isn't a very kind of sexy or eye-catching product, but the way that they have marketed their products on Pinterest is fascinating. They actually are really great at showing how their products can be used in kind of non-obvious ways. So, for example, food storage in fun ways, how to make your kids' packed lunches more eye-catching when you're trying to get them to eat fruit and vegetables and they don't want to. Ziploc are actually positioning themselves as the brand to help parents to get their kids to eat more fruit and vegetables.
Wow, it's fascinating. Thanks for sharing. Another question that's just come in. Do you have any specific dates or other countries than the US and UK to start Pinterest ads?
That's a very good question that I get asked very frequently. So ads are currently available only in English-speaking markets. So that's US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Ireland. There is no timeline yet for other markets for launching promoted pins. However, there are teams in market in several countries throughout Europe who are dedicated to working with organic partners to increase the amount of relevant content on the platform and to make the user experience that much more relevant and localized.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully that's answered some of the listeners' questions. Matt, from my side, just like to thank you again for taking the time to run us through Pinterest. And guys, on the call, there's content to download, and please get in contact with Kenshu should you look to push your Pinterest advertising forward. Thanks everyone for your time today, and look forward to speaking soon. All the best.